Thank you, Gary, and thanks everyone out there for joining us this afternoon for our kind of a combination webinar this afternoon by American Low Income Report Verification for the 1920 school year. I am Dana Parker, the Director of Training here at the Child Nutrition Department at the State Department. Also in our audience here at the webinar, we have Leanne Roush and Lorna Lawrence, who are going to back me up if I tell you something incorrectly, or just really, just cheer me on, Leanne said. So we do have those two here to help answer questions when we get through. Probably if you have any questions, we will try to answer all of those that are in the chat box when we get through. That way we can breeze on through and answer the questions at the end. The reason we went ahead and left the Buy American on with the low income report and verification was just to give you a little bit of information about Buy American, as it's not new, but a lot of school districts are really investigating in their procurement, and Buy American is a very, very big part of the procurement process, and we want you to be aware of the regulations that go with the Buy American. So we have our pretty Buy American United States. We're going to look at what it means for Buy American in your school district. Part of the regulations for procurement come from the 7 CFRs, and in part with the Buy American, we need you guys to be educated on your purchasing. You need to educate your salespeople. Buy American helps support the child nutrition programs, and that, we're helping kids by serving nutritious meals, and it also helps support American agriculture and keeping our money at home and helping our farmers who are our local people. It also helps encourage purchasing from local businesses, small minority and women's owned business. This statement that you need to be aware of the small minority women-owned businesses needs to be a part of your procurement plan, and it's a part of the things we look at when we are monitoring in your procurement reviews. Why is Buy American a requirement in the schools? Well, it's part of the National School Lunch Act 42 and the U.S. C-1760. It requires school food authorities to purchase domestic commodities or products. And the Buy American provision supports the mission of the child nutrition programs. Like I said, to serve nutritious meals to our kids here in the United States. The definition of domestic or commodity product is a product that is produced in the United States, or a commodity that is processed in the United States using substantially agricultural commodities. And what we mean by substantially is that 51% of the final processed product by weight or volume consists of agricultural commodities grown in the United States or grown domestically. Unprocessed foods must be grown domestically. Processed foods must be processed domestically using domestic agricultural components comprised of over 51% domestically grown items by weight or volume. The domestic products served in the schools needs to be American agriculture. These products can also be from Guam, American Samoa, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and the Northern Marina Islands, which these are all considered American territories. So if the product is from one of those territories or grown in the United States, it should be over 51% and be a Buy American product. How do you implement Buy American, the provision? Well, first of all, you have to have it in your procurement plan, in your procurement documents. You have to have it in your contract with your vendors. It also should, you need to make it, you need to look at the cost of that product. There may be some products that it is just not financially viable for you to use a Buy American product, but you have to have in your plan what is going to happen if you're going to use a product that is not a domestic or a Buy American product. And then you see on the PowerPoint, there is a website. And of course, this PowerPoint, like most we do in the webinars, will be posted in CARs and other documents a couple of days down the road. Give us time to get it saved and copied and everything. But this website is a good website to go to see where the products are coming from, what's in season, what the costs are, because you may want to buy, let's say, apples, but maybe they're not coming from the United States right at the moment, but you look and the cost is just unprohibited. So there's some other things you can do if you run into those situations. But this marketing news report helps you decide the cost and if it is financially viable for your district. Some of the ways that you can develop or understand and how to use the Buy American is maybe you want to develop your menus that you include only domestic foods. Now that might not be totally feasible because we all know pineapples are not grown in the United States, and you occasionally may want to put pineapples on your menu. How you could go about that is you would write in your solicitation documents for your vendors that you are going to be buying pineapples, and that would be an exception to the Buy American clauses in your procurement plan. You also should include in your solicitation documents, in your bid processes, that for your vendors to know that you want them to adhere to the Buy American, and maybe even some geographic preferences. You want, in the third bullet talks about having a vendor attest to that the items they're selling you is 100% domestic or contain over 51% of domestic foods components by weight or volume. That might be very difficult to do because the vendors may not want to attest that those products are that certify them to be grown in the U.S. or 51% domestic use. But that's something that you could look at in your bid processes. Another thing is if you use the USDA commodities. The USDA commodities do all follow the Buy American provision. Also, if you're participating as a farm to school program, that is a good way to utilize and make sure you are buying American, because if you're buying from a local farmer, obviously that is going to be a local grown Buy American product. Some exceptions would be if they're just not going to be, like we talked about the pineapple, we know they're not going to be manufactured or grown in the United States. That could be an exception in your procurement plan. Or if just the bid reveals that the cost of that item is going to be too costly for your school food authority to buy that product, that you're going to have to buy it from some other country. Sometimes I know our juice, it is not all domestic Buy American because they send the apples overseas to be manufactured and processed into our final apple juice. But that might be a cost prohibitive because the juice that's processed and produced here in the United States would be too cost prohibitive to use for your school lunch menus. And since we've kind of talked about the Buy American and a little bit on your procurement, just kind of going to touch base real quick and let you know procurement reviews are going to be on the same 5-year cycle as your administrative reviews, except if you have a food service management company, those procurement reviews will be done every 3 years. These are done separate from the administrative reviews, only they will be on the same track. This year, we are contracting out the procurement reviews. They will be done by a third-party processor. Now let's get into the October reporting, the low income and verification report. I know, because that's what everybody was really waiting on, wasn't it? Was the low income and verification. Um, Before your low income report can be started or even opened in CARS, you have to do your October claim. You want to get that October claim in as soon as possible after the October 31st date. Once you submit your claim and it is processed, we have to send it, Leanne has to send it through her payment process before the low income report will even open up for you to be able to work in. A few weeks ago, a memo went out talking about the low income report, some reporting dates, um, and it's also posted in CARS under other documents. The one thing we really, really, really want to emphasize on this is your free, reduced, and paid eligible students must match that low income report and that October claim. If those numbers are different, we have to send it back to you and get those numbers to match before we can enter your low income report, because they have to match your October claim. This is just kind of a copy of the memo that went out. What we really wanted you to look at here is, since that low income report will not open until your claim has been submitted and paid, is if you get in there and you submit your claim on Tuesday, November the 5th by 3 p.m., your low income report will be opened up on November 8th by noon. Sorry, the memo that went out does say 3, but we need to make sure.
Well, if the memo says 3, then they changed it, I guess, for this specific thing, because normally I process it
Okay.
for 3
Okay, normally Leanne processes claims by noon, but since the memo has gone out to all the school districts, and that's what is posted for the October claims, she will hold up and not process until 3 p.m. But it's very important that if you want to be able to start your low income report by that date that says will be processed on, you need to have your claims in by those dates that are there on the left. So if you get your claim in by Tuesday, November 5th by 3 p.m., you'll be able to start on your low income report on Friday, November the 8th. So remember that as you're working on your October reports, as we end October next Thursday. So if you can get your claim in next Friday, it's going to be processed on this Tuesday date. And by the next week on Friday, you'll be ready to start on your low income report. All right, on your October claim, the free and reduced eligible students must be currently enrolled students. Those students must have access to at least one meal. The number of the enrolled students on each site, that's what we're looking for. That's how you're going to enter your claim. That's how you've been entering your claim all along. But just remember, it's going to be very important on your October claim. Now, we're going to talk about the economically disadvantaged student and the economically disadvantaged forms. If you were a CEP, which is Community Eligibility Provision School, or a Provision 2 or 3 school, your school district should have sent out the economically disadvantaged form to those students who are not currently on direct cert. These forms have nothing to do with child nutrition. These forms are to be sent out and reported to through your regional accreditation officer, not through your child nutrition program. Provision schools, if your district has one or all sites on provision, those forms should have been sent out and collected back. I think I get ahead of myself every now and then. A normal October claim where you're going to put in your free, reduced, and paid eligibles looks like what we have on the screen, number of enrolled students on site. Because remember, all of our claims are site specific. Each site has its own claim. So each site, when you put in your enrollment numbers, is kind of going to make it a little easier for your low income report, because we used to have to pull them all out. Now they're all going to be listed on your enrollment for this. Now, once you get that your October claim in and you've got it processed, you're going to be ready to start your low income report. And if you see on the screen down where we have the low income report, there's not a line under it where you could click in it. That's because this site has not been the screenshot we used here. It's a current year application, so the low income report, the verification reports are not ready to be started. Once Leanne has your claim processed, this will turn blue with a line under it, just like the other parts of the checklist that you will be able to get in and process. This is a screenshot of exactly how the low income report looks. What you're going to do is the first step you're going to take is you're going to go over to where it says number 1 site. You're going to use the drop down box and select the site you're going to start with. You're going to put in the grades. You're going to put in the total enrollment in number 3. And then when you start over under number 4, 5, and 6, those are going to be, number 4 is going to be your enrollment for your kiddos ages 4 and under. Number 5 is going to be your enrollment for those kids that are either free or reduced, depending on which line you're up on. You'll put in the enrollments of the 5 to 17-year-olds. Number 6, the 18 and over. The totals, it should calculate that for you once you put those in there. Once you have your free and reduced, you hit insert. Do not forget to hit the insert or it will just disappear when you get out of it. And then that will cause you to probably want to call the office and tell us that I put the numbers in, but they're not there. Make sure you hit that insert button. If you are a provision 2 or 3, your information is a little bit different. Once we get all the numbers from the accreditation officers, Leanne and Lorna and Becky, all 3, I think all 3 of them take these numbers and actually enter those for you for your enrollments. So if we're looking at provision 2, the first thing you're going to click on is the view details. If you, this school that we used for the screenshot had 2 sites that were on provision 2. You may have more, you may only have 1 of your sites on the provision. You have to go through and click on each one of them and certify those as being correct. So once you click on view details, you're going to see where it says current year information. You want to double check all that and make sure that is still up to date. You want to make sure what year, how many years are left if you're a provision, if you're CEP. Well, no, let me not say CEP there because they have a whole different thing. And in the circled in red, you're going to see the October numbers. October, the reduced, the paid, and there's no free there. I think my screenshot is off.
No, that's how it looks online.
Okay.
The free is actually under reduced.
Okay, Leanne's telling me that's kind of how it looks. We've just not, it's just not in line or lined up because of the program. But in this example, where the 550 is under the reduced, that 550 is actually the free, the 27 is actually the reduced, and the 18 is actually the paid. So if you were this school and you came in and you looked at that, you might call, but just know now that you've watched this webinar that this is how this form looks. And if those were the correct numbers, you would go ahead and certify this form, and then Leanne would be ready to enter your numbers, and you would be ready to do your October claim and your low income report after your low income report and your claim had been processed. Now this is an example of a provision 2 claim. We just put this in here because we had the example of the regular accounting and claiming system, because we want you to see kind of the difference of how the claims look. This one has the free, reduced, and paid up here. This would be after Leanne has entered those numbers for October. And then of course you entered the number of meals. So this person entered on this claim, they had 918 free meals, and then the computer calculates out, because of the percentages, that So 659 of those are going to be claimed at the free rate, 12.6 at the reduced, and then 15.6 at the paid rate.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. The Provision 3 application looks right here similar to the Provision 2. You're going to come in, and how many ever sites you have, you're going to click on View Details. When you click on View Details, it has the current year information, and its numbers for the percentages are there circled in green. So this school has free eligibles of 255, reduced of 18, and paid of, I can't see because of the circle, I think it says 7. You would be looking at those numbers and making sure those are correct and certifying the form. On either of the provisions, CEP, if any of those numbers are not right, do not go ahead and certify your forms. Call us here at the office and let us know that there's a discrepancy somewhere so that we can find the error and get it correct before we start with your October claim and your low income report. Because remember, all of these tie together and we want them to have the most current information available. CEP, the same way. You would click on your CEP, current year information, and then this school has several, looks like, sites on CEP. Remember, you're going to have to go into each one of those and click on View Details. And I've already clicked on View Details in this example so I could show you with one screenshot the site enrollment, which was 188, the free eligibles 178, paid eligibles 10. You noticed in the CEP there are no reduced eligibles. That's a part of the CEP because there are no reduced. If you agree with these numbers, you would click certify this form. Remember, you have to do that on all the sites. You need to make sure you save and certify those buttons down at the bottom. Just remember that in cars. From now on, everything is going to be a save and certify because of the site-based system. You have to save it, certify that site, and then most of our applications, you have to go and save and certify the overall SFA report. This is a screenshot of our low-income report. The way it looks in the manual, we want to bring your attention to, you have to do everything in the cars and certify that, or your verification report will not open up for you. They're tied together. So if you think, well, I'm just not going to worry about that in my computer system, I'm going to fill it out on paper, because you still have to send it in by paper. You still have to, once you get it entered into your car system, print it out, have your superintendent sign and date it, and either mail that to us or fax that to us. One or the, both of those have to be completed. So please do that. That's the only way we can have your verification report open. If you only fax it to us and we don't know that you didn't do it in cars, you may be delayed on getting your other reports done. The fax number here at the office, it's in our child nutrition manual. It's on the website. It's 405-521-2239. Now let's talk a little bit about verification. Verification is a confirmation of eligibility of the free and reduced meals under the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program. If you're still taking applications, any paper applications, you're going to have to do verification. And it must include confirmation of income, any income that is listed on that child's application. Or if that application has listed a SNAP, TANF, FIDPER, or any other assistance, you have to verify that information either through the parent or through that agency. Now, I know it's October 24th, and this is verification timeline October 1st. Hopefully, you've already started your verification process. I know I just said that the verification will not open in cars until your low income report is all completed. But the verification process should have started on October 1st with you selecting your applications that you were going to pull for verification and have those sent out. A verification timeline, you have to follow certain steps in the verification process. You can't just pull them for verification and next week say, nope, I didn't hear from you, so I'm putting your children on full paid. You've got to send them at least 1 second notice that lets them know they were selected for verification, and that has to be in a written notice. We have samples of all of the letters and things that need to go out to the parents in our manual. If you use a computer system, make sure your computer system's letters and information is the exact same as ours. If not, you need to have it pre-approved through our office. So continuing on with our timeline, you've sent the first one on October 2nd, October 15th. October 1st, you sent the first notice. October 15th, you sent the second notice. October 29th, you may be ready to send the adverse action letter out to them. You're going to terminate them by maybe November the 9th. Anytime you are lowering a applicant's benefits, free to reduce, free to full paid, you have to give the family a 10-day notice before you can do that. All verification must be completed by November 15th. When is verification completed? Well, there's a couple of different ways. One is that the household sends you the required information on all the income that is listed on the application, and you look at it and verify it to not change or whatever the change is. Then that application verification is complete. If the household just flat out calls you and says, I don't want to be on the program, just take my kids off, that is a contact, and you can document that, and then that verification of that application is complete. If you actually pulled an application that has a case number, SNAP, TANF, or FDPR, and you send that information to an agency and they verify that, yes or no, that could complete that verification. If you send that to the family and they send back the right kind of documentation, that could complete your verification. Each one of these on our letters, it talks about an appeal process. If for some reason you send back an application and the parent does call you or write you a letter and tells you they'd like to appeal the process, you've made them from free to reduced, and they say, no, I think you're wrong. I think you did something wrong. I want to appeal the process. The children will stay on their original benefits until the appeal process is complete. If you hear us mention 742 report, that is the report, that verification that we have to gather this information and send it to USDA on a yearly report. And we just commonly call it the FNS 742 report. All SFAs that participate in the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program must complete different parts of this 742 report. Even if you're CEP or Provision 1, 2, or 3, and you did not do verification, there are pieces of this verification report that you must do. We're going to look at a little bit of the verification report, the 742 report. This is what it looks like in CARS. This is a screenshot of the very first line you would go to. And if you can see up here, it has the different tabs. You have applications, summary section 1 and 2, sections 3 and 4, and then summary section 5. We're going to look at each one of those sections just a little bit to make sure you have a good understanding of what you need to put in each section. So let's start with applications. The first thing you need to do is for the ID, if you've numbered your applications, you're going to put your ID number or number them 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter. That's just an ID to help us identify those applications. If you give them a number, that would be in the, number 2 would be the number of children that are on that application. So if that application has 5 children, you're going to list the number 5. Number 3 on this application step is how the application was originally selected as? Was it originally the benefits free with the SNAP TANF or FIDPER number on the application? Was it free due to income, household size and income? Was it a reduced? Was it a foster child, income eligible by Head Start or Even Start? Now on the number 4, that tells us if that application changed or what its status was after verification. So you would go through and pick what that application change would be. Then the next you're going to click on the section 1 and 2. Up in section 1, everyone completes this part, no matter if you are CEP, provision, or regular counting and claiming. Everyone's going to list how many schools they have and the number of students enrolled. If you are an RCCI with day students, you will fill out that appropriate line. If you're an RCCI with no day students, and on our screenshot, these are kind of grayed out because the school I used was not an RCCI or day students. So those lines were grayed out. If this school was an RCCI, these lines would not be grayed out. Then in section 2, if you notice, we have circled in red the number of schools and institutions. And then B is the number of students. So 2.1 is operating provision 2 or 3 in a base year. 2-2 is operating provision 2 or 3 in a non-base year. When you're filling out this form, it's very important that you read each of the instructions on each line to make sure you're putting the correct numbers from your district in the correct line. Because as you see, this school is a community eligible school, but she has 9 up in 1-1, so there's 9 schools, but look in 2-3, there's only 5 of those schools that are on community eligibility. Now, those 5 schools have the number of students in B that are currently receiving community eligible benefits. In the 742 in section 2, this just kind of recaps what we talked about. If you're provision 2, provision 3 in the base non-year, community eligible, you must complete these sections. Now let's look at section 3, 3-1. There's a little bitty box up there, and this is how it looks online. So if you are an RCCI or you are not required to conduct direct certification, you would check this box because the other things would not pertain to you. But if you have to conduct direct certification throughout the year, you would not check 3.1 and you would complete the number of free students for the item B in this. So this school put in 3-2 for the students directly certified through SNAP, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, but it says do not include students certified with SNAP through the letter method, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So in 3-3, it talks about students directly certified through other programs, which include TANF, FIDPER, foster child, homeless, migrant, and runaway. So as you can see, this school had 85 of those students. 3-4, students certified categorically free through eligible through the SNAP letter method. The SNAP letter method would be is if the parent turned into you a letter directly from DHS saying that family or that student receives SNAP benefits. Looking at section 4, moving on down, we have section A is number of applications, B is number of students. So make sure you read those differences. We see a lot of times somebody's just went in and put how many students and they didn't really list the number of applications. So on 4-1, we want you to put the approved as categorically free based on those providing documentation with a case number such as SNAP, TANF, or FIDPER. These are applications that the parents turned in with a case number on it. So this school had 20 of those, and of those 20, 28 were students. 4-2 says the approved eligible based on household size and income applications. So this school had 153 with 278 of those students. 4-3 says approved as reduced price eligibles. And this school had 110 with 218 in column B as the number of students. And where you see T1 and T2, the computer does total those for you. This is just kind of a slide reiterating that make sure you read those lines, because if a student is on SNAP directly certified along with another program, so maybe they're on SNAP and then they're on your homeless list, the SNAP or the direct cert list takes precedent over any other way a child can be found eligible for free meals. Now, if a student is extended eligibility for free meals because of someone else in the household, they're going to be put under that 3-2 where they're SNAP directly certified. Also, if the student shows up on the SNAP direct cert list, maybe the very last day of October, you want to go ahead and change them as being directly certified because that's very important. That's how we look at numbers and how we need to report them to USDA. And it says, do not include the letter method in 3-2. And we talked about that a minute ago. Sometimes those get confusing because when you see SNAP direct cert, well, that is a form of direct cert, but it's not from your direct cert list. It was completed by an actual piece of paper turned in to you. Section 4, this just kind of goes over that again. All schools collecting household applications must report in this section, and even including provision 2-3 in the base year and RCCIs. You want to report all the applications. When you're getting ready to do this report, your verification should have been based on the number of actual paper applications taken on October 1st. That's the number we want you to report. And then in B, it's the number of students as of the last day of October. So just kind of remember that. And Section 5 identifies all your schools and RCCIs that are exempt. That was in 5-1, and we're going to go over the Section 5 a little bit more here in just 1 second. The types of verification, the type of error-prone applications, in the 3 methods of verification that you do, one is you pull from the error-prone, and if that was the method you selected, you have to let us know how many total applications were error-prone and how many were pulled. So looking at Section 5, the last section of the verification report, Section 5-1 tells us to check that box if all the schools and RCCIs were exempt from verification. So see if you're a provision or a CEP, there's several steps you have to do in this verification process. So don't go check Section 1 and say, yep, I filled that out and I'm done. You have to go through the entire form. 5-2 was verification performed and completed. We have to report this to USDA. If you finished your verification by November 15th, yes, it was completed, but it was after November 15th, or no, you just didn't do verification at all. And if you haven't really started verification and you're thinking, well, I've already missed all these deadlines, I'm just not going to do it. Go ahead and start it now. At least you can report on here, yes, you did it, but it was after November 15th. It's very important that you go ahead and get started on this. In Section 5-3, what type of verification process did you use? Did you pick the standard, which was the lesser of 3% or 3,000 error prone? Did you do number 2, which is alternate 1 or alternate 2? Section 5-5 tells us how many applications you chose for verification. And if you see in 5-4, this school had 17 error-prone applications, and they selected 9 applications to be verified. Once you have finished this information, you need to read 5-6, which is going to be check the box if the direct verification was not conducted. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing because direct verification is different than direct certification. Direct verification would be if you pulled applications not from the error prone, but you just pulled a random sample and you pulled an application that had a SNAP TANF or a FID per number, and you sent those applications directly to DHS or one of the Indian tribes for confirmation if the family or application was still receiving benefits. Then you would fill out this 5-6. If you check 5-6 that you did not do direct verification, you skip on down to 5-8. If you did that direct verification, you would complete 5-7 by how many of those applications you sent and the number of students that were listed on those applications. Now, 5-8 should auto-populate for you and from the other sections that you've completed in the verification process. However, look at the very bottom where it has VC1. Total questionable applications verified for cause. VC stands for verified for cause. If you did verify for cause any applications and it was all completed as of November 15th, you're going to tell us here how many applications you verified for cause. Now, just kind of recap. CEP schools, you need to make sure you're completing box 1, 1, 2, 3. If you're provision, you need to make sure you're completing box 2, 5, 3, 1, and 5, 1. I think we've about reached the end. I see we do have a few questions that have come in, so I'm going to let Gary come up and make our screen bigger so we can read them.
Some of them may be a little difficult to tell when they asked them. I was kind of watching along. But, I think yours really kind of start here. They continued to ask that question right there. So you might start about here.
Okay. Column 3, total enrollment of 5 to 17-year-olds. Is this for October 1 or for the total month of October? It is October. We're all making faces here. Yeah, Leanne, what she is saying is it should be for the end of the month because we're going to match your low income report back to your October claim. So the enrollment, no, wait a minute. Okay, enrollment. Let's think about this a minute. Enrollment is going to be based on your October 1 numbers from accreditation. So your enrollment is not going to necessarily match how many free, reduced, and paid students you have. Your enrollment is strictly the 5 to 17-year-olds based on October 1. Okay. Will we get a copy? I can't even read now, you guys. Will we be able to copy off these pages after the webinar is complete? These pages being what we had on the slides, yes. We will save this PowerPoint and put it under cars, probably along with the webinar once we have everything done. But the PowerPoint will be up there. And all I took was screenshots off of either old claims or old verification report or low income reports. If you have trouble with that, let us know and we can help you. Please repeat what numbers need to match. Your low income report and your October claim, free, reduced, and paid. Those numbers have to match. Okay. I hope whoever's screen was still black was able to get back in. If not, if you listen, you'll be able to go back through the webinar once we get it posted. Can we see the other questions so that we don't ask the same thing? No. And it's okay if you ask the same thing, because if you missed it the first time, probably somebody else did too. So don't ever worry about asking a question again. Okay. Question I think I skipped over. Our enrollment changes almost weekly. What date do we use to get our enrollment for the October claim? The enrollment is going to be for the claim is different than that enrollment on the low income report. The numbers we're looking for that need to match are your free, reduced, and paid. Enrollment on October 1st that was given to your accreditation officer, that's the numbers. And I think the person that asked this is a CEP school. So your enrollment was given to us by your accreditation officer, and we will already have those. You will have to go in and verify those numbers for each site to make sure they're correct. Okay, and Leanne is telling me from Provision and CEP, we do not have all those numbers yet. So when we get them, we will probably try to send something out to you via email or a mass message. If I didn't answer your question through there, send it again so it will pop back up in case I missed it. Okay, here's one that I didn't read. I think I started too far up. So if new applications come in throughout the year, we have to require verification documents. Okay, if you're talking about you had already chosen that application for verification and maybe they didn't send it in any information, and you move those children that were on that application to full paid and say, January, here comes a new application. Yes, you will have to have verification information for that application on that family, because once they're picked for verification, you have to verify that family or that application. When you say verification has to be completed by November 15th, does that include the 10-day window for change benefits, which you would give them to November 15th? Yes, you need to have it all finished by November 15th, including giving them enough time, that 10-day window for the change. So you want to make sure you do that by November 9th to get enough days in there. What if the household shows up on direct certification after you have sent verification? Well, that's an easy verification because right there you have your verified information. Copy that direct cert part of the list with their name on it and put it in your verification folder, and you're ready to go. Okay, for verification on the original app, it shows child support. When a family sent in pay stubs, there was no documentation of child support. When I inquired about this, the mom stated that she has not been receiving child support because dad is currently unemployed. How do I address this concern? Those are always kind of some tricky ones. You can either get maybe the dad to write a statement that he has not been paying child support because why, or, you know, if I would get some kind of documentation though from either the mom or the dad, because a bank statement's not going to show anything on this example because there's no money going into the bank to be shown. I'm still reading through questions, so give me just a minute if you're not hearing anybody talking for just a second. Okay. I'm assuming this is on the, let me read the question. It states the number of apps approved as of October 1st. Then B, you said to report number of students at the end of the month. What if they leave during the month? Well, then you won't be reporting them at the end of the month. And I know that is kind of a strange thing because we're looking at really two different sets of numbers. We're looking at a snapshot on October 1st of what your enrollment is. Then we take the numbers. Basically, we look at your column 6 on your edit check because we're looking at the highest enrolled eligible of free, the highest enrolled eligible of reduced for the end of the month report. Because if a student, you may have one student and he or she may be in all 3 categories. They may be a full paid student because when they started school, no one turned in an application. They may have turned in an application, say, on October 15th because they realized they were getting charges and you originally approved them as reduced. Then, after they get that charge slip for those reduced meals, mom says, oh, well, I made a mistake. This is really our income. So now they're qualified for free. So those children on that application could be full paid, reduced, and free. They would be eligible for all 3 categories in that month. If they leave, you're not going to deduct them because we're taking the highest eligible. You don't start with taking them off until the next month. And then another question about the direct cert list. If we choose an error-prone app and then the student goes to DC, would we choose another app? No. You're going to take your DC information, your direct certification information, as your verification information. Okay, someone asked, is this the last year for the low income report? We're not going to lie to you anymore. We're just going to tell you we're going to plan to keep doing the low income report until someone higher up tells us that we don't have to. The way the funding works in Oklahoma, because of what I just explained on this highest enrolled eligibles, it's hard on the funding formulas if we start changing it. They're trying to work it out in federal programs and the different programs, but it has not yet. So just know we're going to continue with the low income report because the child nutrition does house that data. And sorry, I was hoping to be able to tell y'all something different, but no. Okay. What if they turn 18 during the month of October? I have to think about this a minute. You're still going to count them as if they are over 18 after October 31st. No, you wouldn't count them in both. They're either 5 to 17 or they're 18 and over. So if they turn 18 on November 1st, they're out of that 5 to 17 category. I hope I'm saying that right. If not, I may type y'all that answer again when I send out certificates. That's a Becky question. Leanne saying, I always had to stop and think, okay, if they were 5 by September 30th at midnight, then they're in that 4 and under category. And the same, it's midnight when they turn 18. If they turn 18 on November 1st at midnight, then you do not count them. Okay. Will the enrollment number from the accreditation officer be associated with both sections 1 and 2 for mixed CEP and non-CEP site enrollment students? That's a really good question.
Yes, because we're going to have what they give the accreditation officer. So we're going to have their CEP numbers, but we're also going to have their regular, if they're not CEP So we're gonna have all of those to be able to look at and say what we have, because that's what they turn.
Okay. How Leanne was explaining that would be yes. Will the enrollment numbers from the accreditation officer be associated with both sections 1 and 2 for the mixed CEP and non-CEP sites? We're going to say yes, and she did a long explanation and lost me in there. Because we have the enrollment for your regular, and they have the enrollment for your economically disadvantaged. Okay, one of my parents, we're talking back on verification. One of my parents was audited for verification. The dad lost his job. How do I take him off? How do I'm assuming you're saying, how do I take his income off? Mom told me only she was selected. She only told me this when she was selected to be verified. If he's no longer working, maybe you could get a letter from his employer that he is no longer working there, or at least a documented letter from the family that that income is no longer being received from this family. Okay, here's a good question, and I don't know the answer to this one. The October 1st report has been extended twice now. Ours is now due on the 31st. This is something from accreditation, and I don't know that we'll know the answer to this. But ours is now due the 31st. Should we still do our claim if we don't have the, and I'm assuming you're talking about your enrollment numbers yet. You can't do your October claim till we get those enrollment numbers. Yeah, this school would be CP.
Because their claims specifically will be locked out till we get those enrollment numbers put into the application portion with their site enrollment. So they won't even be able to get into their October claim if we have those numbers. At least that's the way it's.
Okay, how it's supposed to work, Leanne's telling me, is your claims will be, if you're CEP especially, your claims will be locked until we are given those enrollment numbers from accreditation. And so you're on hold until we get there. And I know some of you are listening in our provision. I think provision schools will be the same way. Okay, I think that's about all of our questions that have popped up. If you have any more, always feel free to reach out to us here at the State Department, and we'll be glad to help you out. Everyone have a good afternoon, and we will see you soon. Thank you.